And that's the whole area of biohacking, which, I find fascinating in terms of just like the capitalism of biohacking, where it's like you need all these widgets and all these things to hack your biology, with really what your biology needs is to actually get back to nature.
Hello. Happy week, happy day, happy life. I hope y'all are having a wonderful day so far. If not, it's about to get a whole lot better, because on today's episode of the podcast, I got Julian Mitchell, co-founder of Cykel. Cykel uses high-quality extracts of various types of mushrooms, from lion's mane to cordyceps to shiitake and chaga and more, all with the intention of optimizing your health and helping you feel the benefits of different types of mushrooms. That's not an ad, that's just the company that my boy Julian founded. And in this conversation, we dive deep into his relationship with psychedelics, as well as his approach toward integration. Integration, as part of the psychedelic journey, as many of y'all might know, is what comes after the experience. First, there's preparation, then there's the experience itself, and then there's integration. For more on this, Google it. But in this conversation, we specifically talk about integration practices that Julian has started perfecting in his own life, and you might pick up a couple of practices that you could use in yours. You can also pick up my new tour dates at brettpella.com/shows. I'm all over the map this year, going to Florida. I got dates out there, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego. My comedy special is coming out soon. I'm not sure when this episode drops, but it might already be out, so go to brettpella.com for more on that. And you can learn more about Cykel and Julian's company at lifecykel.com. That's Cykel, CYKEL.com. But real quick, are y'all happy? Are you healthy? Those two things for me go hand in hand, which is why I'm super stoked to share with y'all that the two sponsors of this season's podcast of Good Trip are two of my favorite companies, hands down. Legit Gold Shilajit and Hemp Lucid CBD. If you're looking to elevate your cognitive function, enhance your focus and mental clarity in the morning, I highly recommend you check out Legit Gold Shilajit. What is Shilajit? It's a fun word, I know that much. It's also a mineral-rich resin that accumulates deep in the Himalayan mountains, and Sherpas actually go up 16,000 feet above sea level to extract this resin, and then Legit Gold gets it lab tested at a third-party accredited lab to ensure purity and quality. It's heavy metal free, and the benefits are amazing. Trust me, I've been using it every day, every morning for the past 4 months. A little pea-sized drop of the resin dissolves super quick into coffee or tea, doesn't change the flavor at all. And Legit Gold also has a pre-dissolved solution in water, so one dropper is just about the same as a pea-sized scoop of resin, and you can put that in your morning water, your morning drink, whatever you got. I'll tell you truthfully, the main effect that I've felt from using Shilajit on a daily basis is I have more focus in the morning. I actually push my morning coffee by a couple of hours when I do the dropper of Shilajit into a glass of water. Some days I don't have coffee at all, but I can feel myself more focused and centered on whatever task I have at hand when I have my Legit Gold in the morning. On the legitgold.com website, they have all kinds of articles and other information that you could check out to learn more about how Shilajit can help you optimize your overall health. Head over to legitgold.com and use promo code Brent for a discount on your order. 15% off, baby. Get 15% off at legitgold.com using promo code Brent. And when it's time to wind down later in the day, I always reach for Hemp Lucid CBD, because they have one of the rare proprietary strains of USDA certified organic CBD. A lot of CBD companies on the market don't do organic because there's too many hoops to jump through, but Hemp Lucid is down to jump through those hoops. They jump through so many hoops that their muscles are sore. And when their muscles get sore, they put their own CBD cream on it, which you can get at hemplucid.com, in addition to a couple of other awesome products like their water-soluble version, which dissolves super easily into your water, your tea, your drink, your raw milk, I don't know, whatever you guys are drinking out there. You can put some water-soluble into that and get the benefits quicker, because your body is able to absorb the water soluble due to its creation using advanced nanotechnology that actually breaks down the CBD into more bioavailable particles, and are formulated to help you focus, de-stress, or ease into sleep. Check out hemplucid.com to see what other products they got to offer, and use promo code PELLA at hemplucid.com for a discount. And without further ado, please enjoy this week's trip with the homie Julian Mitchell.
G'day.
G'day.
I don't know if we say it, but it's on the tourist ads.
Yeah. Welcome, bro.
Good to be here, bro.
Welcome to Venice. Welcome to America.
Be back in the US after 3 years.
Is that the last time you were here? It was pre-COVID?
Just when it was kicking off, we left. Just to not get left out of the country type thing. So.
Yeah, good call. And then you got trapped in your own country for like 3 years. This is going to be a very political episode. No, I'm just joking. How's it been? How's it been down there? Y'all are
Life's good. It's paradise in Australia. Yeah. It's cozy and comfy, and there's lots happening. But yeah, just been living that mushroom life at the moment.
Yeah, dude. So how long? So we met because I hit you up.
Slid in the DMs.
I slid through your DMs, as I do with any man who represents a mushroom company, and I gotta say I love it. I've been on the life cycle kick every day. What was the inspiration behind getting started with this? Like, when did you first think that mushrooms were going to be the way to go?
8 years ago was when we started Life Cycle, me and my friend Ryan. But prior to that, physio, worked in elite sport, Premier League in England. So I was always fascinated with high performance and elite athletes and human potential. And so I worked in that space. But just from a lifestyle point of view, it wasn't sort of ticking those boxes. It was working, 8 days a week type thing. Just whenever the players weren't competing, you were with them, and I just felt the impact wasn't at scale. You're working with one guy on his groin or his knee or his ankle to get him back for a game, and I loved that environment growing up. But it's like, I don't want to spend the next 10, 20, 30 years doing that versus can I have a bigger impact in a way. And just so come back with a quarter-life crisis from the UK and looked at different things that were popping off. Saw CBD popping off 8 years ago. Big fan of that in terms of, what it means for natural health solutions. Saw the impossible meat and the burgers and the fake meat going in a different direction, and I was like, that's not the way. And so just looking around at what sort of things can be a part of a healthy future. And mushrooms, at that point, of course, they've been around for multiple decades, for multiple centuries with traditional Chinese medicine and things. But just thought, in Australia at the time, no one was really growing them and extracting them themselves. A lot of it was being imported in terms of the medicinal mushrooms from China. And, Australia has a very proud culture, probably similar to the US, around growing and made, at home and growing and made in Australia. And so we saw that opportunity. We saw the medicinal applications of mushrooms, and so we went down that path 8 years ago. And at that point, for sure, people were like, what's lion's mane, what's cordyceps, what reishi is, even up until a couple of years ago, really. And, it's really caught fire the last couple of years. But prior to that, you just sort of, the first 5 years was like, pretty quiet in the sense of people adopting it. Compared to now. Now it's, as I said, it's just it's gone crazy. Yeah,
that's awesome. Did you play sports growing up as well?
Played sports. Played AFL, Aussie rules, so you wouldn't have heard of that one.
AFL, not rugby?
It's like NFL
football
meets rugby.
So it's a blend of both?
Yeah, so there's like fierce tackling and conflict, but then you're kicking it with your foot, and it's a big field, so you've got to run and jump, and it's very athletic, very in terms of like intense, but without the protective gear as well. So
no pads. Wow.
So it's concussions, and it gets pretty fierce.
I have a lot of friends that play rugby, and they tell me there's less likely of a chance of getting injured playing rugby than there is playing football with pads on, just because you're taught to hit differently. Yeah. I didn't play rugby. Didn't have the body type for rugby. A lot of like the Kiwis or the stocky, strong, like lots of padding around the joints. Yeah, those kind of guys were made for it. Yeah, the New Zealand warrior type. Yeah, sure. Yeah, the fighters. I was always a basketball player growing up, and I think it's so wild to be in a space now where there are all of these natural health and supplement brands and products and more conscious ways of living, and a majority of them seem to be geared toward athletes and sport. And I remember growing up in high school basketball, playing high school basketball, the night before a game, we would do a pasta night at some team member's house. And we would get catering. It'd be like lasagna, spaghetti, garlic bread, cheesy bread, mac and cheese, and we would just load. And I can't imagine doing that today, dude. Like with all... Now, I would do like a mushroom night before a game. You know what I mean? Because it's just like... I don't know if that's similar in Australia, but in America, it just seems that there's been like such an incredible shift into this space of health and wellness that even high school and college kids now are like, well, I need to watch my carbs. Or like, I need to make sure I'm drinking enough water. Or, am I eating the right kind of meat? Whereas when I was in high school, it was like, all right, how old is that whiskey? Yeah, that's good. All right, let's do it. You know?
Yeah. We got the misinformation, and even prior generations, I guess, were drinking a lot more alcohol, and then that started to phase out. But then the next layer of professional sports was carb load and these myths, which are really myths because they weren't good for you and they slowed you down. So imagine you may have made the NBA if you weren't carb loading.
I think I would have. I think I would be there right now. Okay, if we weren't just stuffing down cheese pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
On Thursday nights.
And it's getting just like down to the to the minute of everything now, 24/7 from an athlete's point of view. And I lived that with with the Wolves when I was in the Premier League. Just like that intensity. And I guess from that Life Cykel was born out of the concept of because we would get pitched every day from different companies wanting to come in because they want to get a pro team on the books. Once you got a pro team on the books with your product, then the product will sell type thing. But they're coming in with these products and it's like they just don't work. They just just spend less time on marketing, more time on product, bring something that the physios or the performance coach will want to recommend to athletes, and we'll use it for sure. There's no issue with budgets and things. And so that's a bit of the mentality with the Life Cykel. It's really, we grow everything ourselves, 8 full-time scientists, just focusing on quality and potency. And then through that, you'll get the virality of sales and marketing.
Yeah, because it'll come authentically. So, and what were, you don't have to name the brands, but what were some of those products that you remember?
A lot of them were widgets and gadgets. This thing for your knee for recovery, or this, this
like a band,
and there's some very good ones, but there was some things that were just like $100,000 treadmill, and it's just like probably don't need that, So, and that's the whole area of biohacking, which I find fascinating in terms of just like the capitalism of biohacking, where it's like you need all these widgets and all these things to hack your biology, with really what your biology needs is to actually get back to nature.
Yeah. Who instilled that in you? Because that's a pretty profound thing to believe that not a lot of people believe. A lot more people are starting to believe it today. But did you have kind of a turning point in your own personal life where you realized a connection to nature is what was truly missing?
Chasing performance, or not chasing, but always interested in performance, and so you're testing things, what works, what doesn't work. Going through it, being in environments with no budgets, no lack of budget, so using every widget and gadget that you want, and realizing it doesn't really move the dial too much. And then back, growing up in the country, just country lifestyle, simple, organic lifestyle, that felt like home. So I live in that kind of environment now, on 10 acres and in nature and connected to nature. And then, it's just really, I guess, through the search of biohacking, found, simple things, magnetism such as grounding and, quality water that's not from tap water or from council water or community, and early morning sun and all the things that everyone's talking about now. We're really starting to become this wave in amongst this same wave of capitalism of buy this widget, buy that widget, buy this supplement and that supplement. And that's I sell mushroom products and supplements for sure, but and I do believe in that as the next layer of your health. The bottom base foundational layer should be all of the things that are free, and there's 5 to 10 to 15, 20 things that are free that we can be doing, what we can be consuming, not consuming, what we can be doing, what we can't, what we shouldn't be doing. So that's sort of my philosophy on it. And my learning from going through that professional sport environment.
That's awesome. I feel like I had a similar journey because over the past couple of years, the past 6 to 8 years, I've been trying to add all the free things, all the free shit. You know what I mean? The free things that you can do to hack your bio. I saw, I read this article about a guy, I forget his name, but he's like the world's leading biohacker. He's in his 50s, but his blood test or whatever will tell you he's like a 35-year-old man. Have you ever seen stuff like that?
You see it a lot of it.
Yeah. And I read,
and there's good aspects to it. Like there's cool aspects, but probably there's one guy I think that spends $1 million a year on it.
That is probably the same too. Because I was reading his daily schedule. Oh my God. The guy, and that's part of the inspiration for that Andrew Huberman video I did. So it was like he wakes up at this hour, he does this, and it was every hour he was doing something, whether it's taking pills, eating a very, very specific meal, injecting something, walking outside for 10 minutes to look up at the sun, and a lot of that stuff I do, but this dude was that was his whole day, his entire life. which I think is probably more toward the extreme side of things.
It's a balance, yeah.
But like integrating the free things that you can do, the grounding, the meditation, the
breath work,
a cold shower,
therapy,
cold therapy, eating right. Well, I guess that's not really free, but it's
also one that never gets mentioned is like really like connection to friends and relationships.
Yeah.
You know, like quality of your relationships. Like, are you actually in a loving relationship with your partner, or is it actually, you know, you two sort of subtly attacking each other and you're both taking away from each other rather than giving to each other, you know?
Yeah.
Those loving relationships or those non-loving relationships that people are in.
Yeah.
Or just loneliness, you know, or just those lack of connections to family and friends. I think that's a huge one that like no biohacking sort of personality I see talking about that too much in depth.
Yeah, that's true. Because that just adds like a base layer to everything.
Yeah,
it's
you can go
like
have your ice
foundation.
bath and have your infrared and come back to a hostile house.
Right, and then all of that is negated immediately.
You know?
Yeah. You come out of the sauna feeling great.
Yeah.
And then it's like, why didn't you buy apples? I thought you were going to buy apples today. Yeah. And that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So,
that nightmare's real for many, I'm sure. I'm sure. In both ways, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
100%, dude. So,
are you in a relationship?
I am. Yeah. And it's a good one.
Yeah.
She does not yell at me for not buying apples. Yeah, we have a good time.
What does she yell at you for?
Staying in the sauna too long.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
No, we don't really fight, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's good. We have it's a conscious communication that we've built, which is nice. Yeah. Nice. You?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Very conscious and good communication. Yeah.
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah.
You need that, especially, you know, as an entrepreneur, I feel like you're in two relationships. You're in a relationship with the business, and then you have your relationship at home. Just like I have comedy and I have a girlfriend.
Who comes first?
Oof, that will not be answered on today's podcast.
Trying to set him up.
Love ya. Yeah, that's great, dude. So as you were starting down this path with Life Cykel, what were some of the like outward challenges that you got? Did you have people who were like questioning why you would try to put shiitake mushrooms in a little tiny jar? Like, did you have
why
people...
even mushrooms at the start? You know, you know, you're a physio. You come from, you know, working in sport, and now you're growing mushrooms. Like, you know, like people sort of getting caught in that idea of like what you're trained in is what you must stay in your lane type thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Even from a loving perspective, you know, not a hateful way, but a loving perspective. Like, oh, why are you going into that? But yeah, that was, I guess, one challenge for and self-questioning that a little bit early on. Like, oh, you know, especially with any business early on, it's like, shit, is this thing going to work? You know, we put all our chips in, Ryan and I, in terms of left a very comfortable corporate type environment as a health consultant, easy life, stability, easy paycheck, just to go start a mushroom business. But you sort of got to burn the boats, as they say, you know, to make something work anyways. So we found that for sure that you've got to just be all in on it. But early on, it was, I mean, originally when we started, we were growing mushrooms for restaurants. So we learned to cultivate mushrooms in sea containers, and we were harvesting these mushrooms and high-end mushrooms like lion's mane and a bunch of varieties of oysters and other Asian varieties that we would give to high-end restaurants. Then we're like, no, this is sort of not the path we want to go down. And then we went down the biotechnology path. But the challenges of, you know, anything always from contamination of the mushrooms, growing more mushrooms in time, extraction processes, all the normal pieces of business attached to that in terms of, you know, team members to bring on, right team, scaling your time, all those things. I should be bald by now, really. Going through a business like most people, but now we've gotten to a really sweet spot now. But there's been a lot of challenges throughout, as normal, but nothing too dramatic. And so you were growing them for high-end restaurants. That's interesting. And then you pivoted into the bio. Yeah, then we pivoted space. into the liquid extract, just because we saw that market and interested in that market, and understanding that a lot of the market was powdered products, and just, again, imported powdered products. We just thought, I think there's a better way, you know, especially when you looked at the science and the research of these mushrooms and the potency of them and what they can provide. Because there's so much research out there from journal articles and universities. And so, that was just the alignment, I think, all of those things. And just going what we felt was the right way to go about honoring the mushrooms and the mycelium, to be honest.
Yeah, which is great. And I think from my perspective, I've seen such a huge upswing in like alternative health practices since 2020 in America for sure. Because in America, nobody's trusting doctors anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I do a joke in my act where I say, the only doctors I trust are on anonymous internet message boards. Now, you know what I mean?
Now in mushrooms we trust.
And now in mushrooms we trust.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's been this like pivot away from like the mainstream medical narrative of what's healthy and what's good into a more independent approach toward what might be good for you rather than what the mainstream narrative says is good for everybody.
Yeah.
And we see that happening even with the food pyramid, right?
That was a big lie. That was one of the first turning points for myself. That's when I was a health consultant and I was doing blood tests on a lot of guys every day. And then you were, this is the health pyramid that you should prescribe to someone who's diabetic or someone who's got blood pressure or someone who's got all these issues. And I sort of just went rogue and just didn't follow that and went down the path of keto. And this was 10 years ago.
Nice.
Going down path 10 keto or high fat, low carb, and just seeing the blood results 2 weeks later, and seeing all their markers, all their sleep markers, everything much better. And just like, that was the sort of the awakening for me. And just like, hang on, they're lying. There's a bit of non-truth there.
Yeah. There's a non-truth is a very nice way of putting it.
That's
just a little bit of non-truth.
That's the Australian political way to put it.
Non-truth. As you catch on here, you see Biden left and right. It's like, we got a lot of non-truths out there. Yeah, man. So that I'm glad that came to mind for you too, because that's been such a movement here, and it really does feel like it's spreading. And I don't know where it goes. Hopefully, into more mass adoption of alternative health practices, both in the action of taking and experimenting with the product, and then like we were talking about earlier with the integration after, right? Because there's so much more than just the moment you have the product. It's all the in-between time is so heavy. It's so weighted. There's so much to do in between. And so some people, even with meditation or with a certain diet or contrast therapy, hot cold therapy, whatever it is, they focus on the moment and the experience, but it's the integration in between that really helps you kind of evolve into that healthier form of yourself. Right?
Yeah, stacking these things and the consistency of them, and then just being reflective on. And people, I think, if they thought about their life now as their daily health habits and thinking back to 2020 or 2019, they'd be quite radical, the changes.
Yeah. Mine's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I'm not watching CNN anymore. That's the healthiest thing.
And this is something biohackers should be talking about.
Right.
You're consuming information media-wise.
100%.
Like, auditing your social media algorithm.
Yes. Yeah, man. Because, I mean, a huge part of this is the addiction to the nightmare of social media. And it's like addiction to a nightmare. Because when you I watched a bunch of news the other day just to see what was going on. I was flipping between CNN and Fox and a couple others for like an hour and a half. And I kept getting these rushes of like adrenaline, but it wasn't the good kind of adrenaline. Like I'm ready for battle. It was like the bad adrenaline. Like I'm ready to fucking murder someone and hide in a hole. Like it didn't feel good, and I imagine how many people are watching and consuming content on a nightly basis, content that is like actively designed to trigger you and to make you feel these things, this anger, this rush of like defensiveness or aggression or whatever, and how that affects the rest of your body chemistry. It's very real.
For sure, it's very real. It's very real. Yeah, it keeps you in your frontal lobe, or it helps you shut down your frontal lobe. And you're just sort of in this fear, this very reflexive, short-term thinking mindset. And I think fear helps fuel capitalism because it helps people want to spend more to externally fix something. But yeah, that fear also, like catching the plane here yesterday from Australia. People still wearing masks, not many, but some, and some at the airport, it's like they're deeply entrapped within the fear mechanism of media.
100% in 2023.
Yeah. Like the deepest level.
The deepest level.
The deepest level.
The level where if you had a conversation with them.
There's not many. There's maybe a couple per thousand, but still, that's still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it's to the point where you have a conversation with that person and they wouldn't even be able to open their mind to the perspective that you have. It's shut off completely. Like, nope, it's still out there or whatever. I can catch it or whatever. I don't trust or whatever. So that's cool. I like hearing that, the mission and the intention behind this brand and behind what you're doing is,
just make the highest quality product, the purest product, and let the mushrooms do the talking.
Yeah, and it's awesome because it's rooted in performance on an individual level, but there's a bigger picture here where performance on an individual level, once you have a lot of individuals, then it becomes performance on a communal level. And performance not just in sports and athletics, but in your everyday life, and performance as part of a community. So I think that's really cool.
What's your favorite mushroom? Like if you go through them, like what's your sort of go-to? What's your
lion's mane and cordyceps have always been my two favorites.
They're very masculine in the
these two
morning masculine.
Yeah.
Not that women won't take them either for sure, but some women will choose reishi first. Because it's very grounding and just reassuring and calming. It's like stepping out of a hot yoga, or not maybe a hot yoga, but a yoga.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And then the turkey tail is more, what was the turkey tail one? That's more your gut.
It's gut health, which, gut brain axis mood.
Yeah.
So it's really a mood stabilizer would be and gut inflammation.
Yeah.
So, that's really what's affecting our mood some days when you're sort of down and out. It can just be because you've got a bit of candida or a lot of sugar going on, or a bit of inflammation in your gut. So IBS or Crohn's or any digestive issues, any sort of mood, pieces that you're not happy with, turkey tail for sure. Yeah.
Were there any mushrooms you guys experimented with that didn't make the cut?
Not really, because the research was already out there.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Interested in a few, going forward that haven't been really, seen in the mainstream. So we're playing around with that. I guess that's the benefit of having this, the labs and 8 full-time scientists. It allows us to innovate on that level and play around on that level. And so we've got things in the pipeline for the coming years that we're working on now that they just take time.
Yeah. Awesome. And, being in the mushroom space, you're obviously crossing paths with the psilocybin mushroom space just a little bit.
That's right? Pretty much one of the first questions people ask. Do you sell magic mushrooms? Do you sell psilocybin? Like, I'm not your dude. Sorry.
Not your dude. I can give you a recommendation, though. But that, what is the perspective toward the psychedelic space in Australia as far as like, for medicinal use and therapeutic
There's some
use?
good stuff happening for sure. There's some good organizations similar to MAPS, Australian versions. I think that, collaborate with MAPS as well. So there's those non-for-profit organizations pushing forward with the research to build that research, which is amazing. I think they're having some wins. I think they've had wins, I don't think it's not really psychedelic, but MDMA therapy and things like that are starting to kick off and open doors for clinicians to start using them. And then, I think all roads lead to those, those other modalities happening. But Australia is a bit behind for sure.
Yeah.
US is leading the charge, I think, in that space with all the universities and just all the other companies, I guess, and the funding models that are supporting the research. So Australia's lagging behind a little bit, but not to say that, the Australian community isn't keen for it to become real, because it's needed in the marketplace. Where current solutions for mental health, for PTSD, for, a number of pain points, end of life cancer, there's so many points or issues or diseases where this can be used in clinic.
Yeah, definitely. Have psychedelics played a role at all for you in terms of your creativity, your business building? Has it been? Over the years, been exposed to it, especially traveling, and I think being around, the mushroom space with life cycle and functional mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms, but always, getting asked this question about magic mushrooms and seeing the whole landscape for quite some time now. It's been an interesting one where, I think we can always get sold on a silver bullet. Yeah.
And I think this whole movement towards natural health products and this movement towards consciousness are both phenomenal and amazing. And but I wouldn't downplay also, even though I'm a mushroom guy through and through, I wouldn't downplay things like holotropic breath work, fasting. I'm not sure if you've done a Temescal sweat lodge.
No.
So things like that's familiar with what that is? So a sweat lodge. So it's Native American and EP sweat lodge, and you go in there, and it's
just unbearably hot.
Unbearably hot, and it's completely dark, and you'll have visions and you'll face things from a completely I guess if you want to call it that, sober environment. So there's so many of these modalities, I think, that are all part of the movement of awakening consciousness, of reclaiming it. Our sovereignty and who we are, connection to spirit, and also just biohacking.
Yeah.
All of those modalities of biohacking. When I walk out of a sweat lodge, I just feel so purified and so clear, and so like the sword is very sharp to get on with the daily tasks and work and life. So back to your question about, the psychedelic realm, I think, have you done holotropic breath work?
Nope.
So it's
I've done breath work.
You've done breath work?
Yeah. And I have a couple breathing patterns that I do.
But if you do holotropics, like 3 hours, very, I say, aggressive breath work, intense, and you will have a DMT release, because you'll starve your body of oxygen in some ways, and so then therefore it releases DMT, and so you get these visions, and you get all sorts of catharsis. You get all types of hand movements happening, where you sort of lock up, uncontrollably, and you'll cry, you'll have all sorts of visions, as I sort of mentioned, and transformational. And I've had many friends do that who've been on the psychedelic paths for 10 years, and they will say, wow, that was just, if not more impactful.
Wow.
And the thing about that, I guess, similar to the functional mushrooms, we like functional medicinal mushrooms because they're available now to everyone. And if you make them in a very high quality, potent way, then you can have a transformative health experience. And I think with things like holotropic breath work or sweat lodge or, other modalities such as, dark retreats or silent retreats or long-term fasting, 5-day fasts, you can have a transformative spiritual experience as well. And that can happen now. And so I guess I really like those ideas initially because as an Australian point of view, I can see that the psychedelic approval process is going to take time. Yeah. It's going to be slow. It's going to be too slow. Yeah. But it needs to be that for safety reasons and all of these pieces. So from my point of view, it's like, okay, what action can people take now to free themselves of whatever they're going through? Those modalities are available now. This weekend, you could sign up and go and do a Vipassana or a sweat lodge or a holotropic breath work, and you'll come out of that Sunday afternoon or Monday, healed, expanded, So those things I'm pretty bullish on. Yeah, that's awesome. There are so many tools at our disposal, and I do think in the rise of psychedelics that we're having right now is amazing and awesome. But a lot of people put weight on psychedelics as like the cure-all, like the one thing that can solve everything. And it's certainly not the case. Psychedelics are not for everybody, for sure. Whereas all these other things are maybe a bit more easy to access and can be integrated in a more regular way even. And the Sweat Lodge sounds wild. Have you done that one? Yeah, a couple times. I think I did last year like 5 times. So yeah, it's just just dead hot, hotter than hot. Your nostrils are burning. You're like, I can't breathe. How long do you stay in there for? A couple of them have gone for 3 to 4 hours. What? Somewhere between without walking out? No, well, you can walk out, but you can't come back in if you walk out. So no it's way. And we've done it with we've done it with groups of friends of just males, just like a masculine and EP sometimes, and sometimes, especially with the women as well. And when it's just the men, there's a huge pride sense in not wanting to go out. And sometimes toxic masculinity. So it's nice. It's supportive. This one's been nurturing. This one's been nurturing, but it's like, oi, you're not getting out. But at the end, they're thankful. They're like, thanks for making me stay through that. You know? But of course, if they deeply need to get out, then of course it's but having that support of 20 other brothers around to say, no, you're good. Like, wow, that's helpful. Yeah, that's tough. Are they
Do they chant in there too? Do you have like a guide with you?
Yeah, you've got
leading.
Have a shaman, if you want to call them that, or what they go by in terms of facilitator. But a good friend brother who's from the Amazon, grew up in the Amazon, grew up in Colombia, learned all the traditional ways.
Yeah. Damn, that's wild. And so, what do you? That's the type of experience similar to holotropic breathing or taking a psilocybin mushroom trip, where the experience is so intense, but the integration after is just as important. So how do you approach like the integration in between for bigger experiences like that?
Yeah, and this is the thing, going back to like, I guess, like the silver bullet is I take this, and then I'm good type thing. And I guess it's just important that everyone's educated on the need for integration, because I've seen it myself in those communities and those circles where that cannot be the case as much as there needs to be a lot of discipline around integration and focus on it, which can be hard for everyone, because you go from this weekend of peace and quiet and transformative growth, and then Monday it's like you're back in your job and you got projects and you got traffic and you got shopping and you got bills, and so you can understand that it can get washed away a little bit. The potency of what you experienced can get washed away, and actually you don't change as much as you possibly could. You don't grow and evolve as much as you could, and that's the thing. I think we, as a society, as a community in this environment, if we really focus on that, we'll get transformative change for the community, for the family, for the individual. Where I see a lot of just loops, just go have a transformative experience, go back to everyday life, go back for a transformative experience to work through the same thing, because integration hasn't been there. And so we haven't had that layer of growth. So yeah, that's just something I see as a huge opportunity. Yeah. And needs a bit more focus. It's to bed down. It's
really like the work is in the integration. The experience to me is like a ride. That's a ride. It's work for sure. You have to stay yourself, if you're in a certain experience with a certain psychedelic or a certain experience like a breath work for 3 hours or the sweat lodge for 4 hours. It's for sure work to stay in that, but it's also a ride because you're surrendering a bit, right? You're giving up autonomy in a way to allow yourself to be fully present in the experience, right? So whether it's a substance that you allow to just take you on a journey, or your mind, you let go of your mind so that you can stay in this 300-degree heat for 3 hours or whatever, that's more ride-based via surrender. Whereas the integration takes proper work and proper effort, whether it's journaling. You have to go get the journal. You have to contemplate what you're going to write, and you're going to do the physical act of writing. Or sometimes you process with somebody else. That takes talking to them. Call the person. Be with the person. Be eye to eye. Put your phone down. No distractions. And that work area I've found to be the hardest part of the whole thing. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, which is probably why you've seen a lot of loops. And I've caught myself in a loop before where like I come out of the experience and then boom, I got 30 emails the next day with a bunch of other bullshit. And I got to audition for some shitty soup commercial that I'm not going to book, but I got to do it anyways and whatever. And then I find myself a couple days later like, fuck, where's that feeling that I had last week in the desert at 3 a.m?
Whereas you can ride that feeling, like by having a strong integration.
Right.
You can ride that flow for 6 months.
Yeah, and that's the goal. Yeah. That should be the goal is to ride that integration and ride that feeling and to the point where it becomes this kind of like not muted but lower frequency energy throughout your day-to-day activity. It's always there. Yeah. But it's not primary, because then you would just be dancing in the desert with no pants on again or whatever it is. But it's there. It's there. It's a regular motivating energy. So that's my intention now behind these integration processes. Is really trying to figure out a way to live with that in the day-to-day, in between ceremonies or in between practices. And
I think everyone goes through that. And I think there is an element of regularity. Once you're doing, I did 5 sweat lodges last year and 4 breath work, something like that. So you do it a few times, or whatever that modality is for you, and then you learn to actually, I just embody that. I just embody that feeling It's within my codons of my DNA. It's imprinted in that, and that's who I am. And that's led me down the path more of meditation. I think meditation can be a huge part of integration because you just need stillness. You just need peace. You just need silence to go within because there's so much external things happening, trying to grab our attention. It's an attention economy, as we know. It's every algorithm and everything is set to try and drain your energy and take your time and your attention. And so you need to prioritize that back for yourself, whether it's emails or work or loved ones. It's all taking away from that sacred time that you need to help grow and evolve yourself, which is for them, which is for community and your family and yourself.
Yeah, it feels like everything we're talking about right now would be absolutely hated by like a big pharmaceutical company. You know what I mean? What's your perspective toward like the I don't know if conflict is the right word, but I'm going to use it. The kind of the conflict of, a mission-based company like yours versus the pre-existing leaders in the field. Like, because all the holistic work that we're talking about, the biohacking, the different things that you can do, the mushroom supplements, all of those things seem to be going up against this predetermined system of regulations and driven by billions and trillions of dollars of earnings per year. What are some of like the challenges that you see there? And do you see a way through all that to become just as significant for people as the kind of pre-existing structure?
It's a good question. I think, when I think of capitalism and corporations, and it's a pretty narrow focus. And the focus is on value to shareholders and share price and profit and EBITDA. And so that's fine. Natural health products can speak in that language too. And if they speak in that language, then they become of interest to those corporations. And then maybe those corporations start to think differently about the way that they, spend their money and their time and their investments. And so maybe I think that's a positive way to think about change rather than bucking heads. It's more like... Because you see that already. You see that with a number of, natural health companies that get bought by a Nestle or Unilever or a pharmaceutical company of that sort. So those big companies are already looking at these natural health spaces as opportunities, is my perspective on it. And so, which is positive and good. So I'm playing a bit of neutrality there, I guess,
good.
In terms of like
how smart businessman,
how to think positively, because you shouldn't need. If you, the art of war, the true general, the true warrior, the best sergeant wins by not firing a bullet, by not killing anyone, but still winning. And so, the young me would say, fight. The older me would say, how do you collaborate and work together and change the system in harmony rather than going to war on each other? But it's the masculine wants to go to war. It's this in our primal nature to think about things like kill them, they're killing us, fuck that, this, that kind of aggression. And don't get me wrong, like, I love that side of life, as a competitor in sport.
Right.
But how do we change things for real? I think it's naturally going to happen inevitably because it's what the consumer wants. And if we think back to Amazon and Jeff Bezos, he won because he obsesses over the consumer. Faster, cheaper. We're going to make it faster, get it to them faster. We're going to make it cheaper for them. Now that comes at a cost sometimes as well, because you can only go so cheap before you have to go and workarounds and Chinese slave labor camps or whatever it may be. That big corporations can tend to use. So yeah, I think just in that principles. The wave is already taken fold, whether it's us and there's hundreds and thousands of, positive brands out there, and they're all growing at different, if I liken it to a forest where you've got, your big oak trees and your big trees that are protecting the younger ones or providing an environment for other ones to come up. And so, but overall, it's the game's won, I think, in that sense that most people are awakening to the need for natural health solutions, and people want that choice.
Yeah, and so the market will follow
the market will follow that. And there's a great number of key opinion leaders and influencers and podcasters, talking about all of this. And
thank you.
If we think about, thank you and Jamie, well done. It's a team effort. But yeah, I think really from that point of view, yeah, it's not too much to think about in terms of wars and battles and competition, because we get it all the time ourselves. It's like, what do you think about this competitor, or another mushroom brand, or this or that? And it's just like, the space is so big,
right?
You know, like, wait, the real competitor is who you just spoke about. Those bigger corporations,
right? They're
a competitor, because people are still consuming that rather than consuming mushrooms. Like, how many people in the US? How many people are consuming mushrooms on a daily basis? Like, there's you know, it's probably hitting 1, 2, 3, 4%. I don't know.
If that.
Yeah, if that literally. So like, it's not about that competition. It's about those bigger guys that, will be disintegrated over time.
Yeah, dissolved, and then mushrooms will grow, because that's what mushrooms do. They grow from dead bodies. That's great. So turning conflict into collaboration.
Yeah, and just showing the way.
Yeah.
Rather than like trying to fight over here. It's like,
just lead the path.
Yeah. You know,
don't get held up in
exactly, which I think everyone, you know, should go down that path. That's our company path and truth and mission, is just to walk that path. Cool. Regardless of what's happening left and right, we're just walking that path. Highest quality, potency, you know, physiological benefits and changes, which we're seeing through people wearing wearables, Oura rings, Whoops, the athletes that we work with. And so we just stick to that, you know, and you can get caught up in that in your own life when you're like, it's like, just stick to your true north, understand what your true north is, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Do y'all ship out of Australia? That's where it ships from? Or do you have a spot in the US?
We have a production facility, grow facility just outside of Green Bay.
Oh, that's right.
We're American.
That's right.
We're American.
Hilarious.
Proudly US grown and made, baby.
We love that. Are there any countries? So, where are you available to ship to?
That's a good question. Kuwait's been a bit tricky, but
really surprising.
Yeah. But pretty much everywhere. You know, that's the beauty.
Pretty much everywhere.
That's the beauty of mushrooms.
Yeah.
And that's what also when CBD was kicking off, it's like it's a stop-start game. There, it's like you can advertise, you can't advertise. You can sell in this state, you can't sell in this state. And you know, in terms of Europe and South America and other countries, it's sort of everywhere. So I feel the pains for those companies that are in CBD, because it's such like a regulatory.
Yeah. But you don't have any of that.
We don't have that.
You don't have any of that.
We're free to roam. So the mycelium is spreading. Yeah, we've launched in the UK. We've launched our facility and opened our facility in India. So we grow and make product for India in India. So we believe in that model. You know, of I guess growing locally to where we are, where possible. So
super cool.
US, Australia, India. And ship everywhere.
Have you found a difference in like the enthusiasm for this type of supplement on a country to country basis? Like, are there certain countries that are having this big upswing in the natural health movement? You know, the US is, Australia is.
I think it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's literally, it is a movement.
Cool.
You know? And I thought about that the other day. It's like, if I think of all these podcasts that are out, you know, the Good Trip podcast,
for sure,
Joe Rogan, Stephen Diary of CEOs, Chris Williamson, like there's so many, right? And they're all preaching this same sort of tone, not preaching, but educating. And so this is a huge wave of media coming through when we think of that as one force, which it is one force. And that's what's pushing this wave, I think, a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in the sauna the other day, and I had a little edible before I went in, so I was like just a tiny bit buzzed. And I was thinking about
from what you get that?
Just a little weed, just a little weed edible. I was thinking about this brand. I was thinking about your brand. I was thinking about Odyssey, the other brand with mushrooms that I work with, and then I was thinking about this festival I'm going to in 2 weeks, where Paul Stamets will be speaking.
The founding father.
And, you know, I'd also just watched another video about like the mycelium network. And I was just like in this zone where I was like, dude, we are the mycelium network. You know what I mean? When you have those high thoughts, you're just like, oh my, bro, we are the network. And I just thought,
deep truth in that.
There's deep truth, dude. Like I mean, it's funny. I caught myself,
but it's like there's wisdom there.
There's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, we're standing on ground right now that beneath us has just millions of miles of mycelium network connecting mushrooms to trees to plants everywhere. And I always thought that was really cool. Do you ever look at it that way? Like this
That's
human
exactly
network
how
that
we
you
look
just
at it.
described
That's exactly how we
is
look at it.
mimicking nature.
That's exactly how we look at. That's the that's the DNA of the company.
Cool.
Is collaboration, and that mycelial network. You know, of communication and being very agile in how it operates and moves and changes. Because mycelium, you know, it can learn to consume something as a nutritional source very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you feed it cardboard, it learns to eat cardboard. If you feed it textile waste, you know, cotton, it will learn to eat textile waste, even though it doesn't normally eat that. It normally eats sawdust and wood. So it can grow to its environment very quickly and adapt to its environment very quickly. So we embody that at Life Cykel, but we definitely embody the co-creation and the collaboration piece.
Yeah.
And I think that's what mushrooms do, and that's what they can teach us.
Yeah. It's cool, and it's like a little spooky that the plants talk to each other now.
And I think there is something there with that, you know, that ape theory and that, you know, consciousness where someone's thinking about something in one country and then, you know, it can sort of take off somewhere else.
Oh, dude, that stuff is crazy.
And especially when you think about indigenous cultures and history, and, you know, where there was temples in different spots, but they're very similar in architecture. And did they know each other or not?
Latitude is like very similar with some of those things. There's a documentary about rats. I forget if it's on Netflix or something, but they talk about how rats in a certain part of the U.S. Were getting killed by this rat poison chemical spray. Yeah. And across the world, rats started to develop an immunity to that chemical. But the chemical hadn't been used on those rats yet. So there was something, the theory was that there was something linking the two. And of course, a scientist or biologist would be like, no, there's no physical proof. That's crazy. But when you think in the ether and the terms of like this unseen, unfelt connection between two living organisms on opposite sides of the globe, it becomes a little spooky in a cool way, in a fun way, because there must be some type of connection there. Just like those ancient
the dangers of the religion of science. You know, very narrow.
Yeah.
Very narrow, very dangerous in that sense.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about the rules of science, but it's guidelines. Yeah. It's guidelines, because science is always evolving. And as our technology evolves and as our ability to comprehend certain aspects of science and biology and chemistry, as those things evolve, then the rules will also change. So if rules are changing, then that means they weren't rules in the first place. They were guidelines. Yeah. And I think a lot of people forget that, and it kind of forces a lot of people to stay stuck.
Well, corporatism's creeped into science a lot.
Yeah.
An enormous amount.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was the British Medical Journal editor was speaking a number of years ago that, you know, most research now is funded, so most research is just not to be trusted, simply. You know, to be trusted. Yep. You know, no one's funding grounding. No one's funding these things. So if there's no funding towards it, there's no science towards it. Yeah. And then there's no research. So people go, oh, where's the research? Yeah. And the research is like, I just go outside and do it. Yeah. Go put your feet on the dirt for 10 minutes. Yeah. You look terrible. Like, go and do some of these things. Sometimes you got to be frank to, you know, especially within my circle of friends, like there's got to be some loving truth there. Right. You know? Especially within the masculine. The masculine can get caught like not wanting to take feedback. But sometimes you just got to hear that feedback and take it on the chin, like from a loving place. Yeah, and just shed your ego a little bit. Yeah, and this is all in the name of, you know, what we've got on the front of our box here is what we, you know, the mission, unlocking humanity's potential. If we keep pissing in each other's pocket, then no one's going to unlock anything. Yeah. We're just going to keep in our bad little habit loops, not evolving in our trauma cycles, in our, you know, unhealthy habits and these things. So we need that communal communication that is, you know, free speech. Yeah, which is so important. By the way, pissing in each other's pocket is a hilarious fucking thing to say. That is not an American phrase. That's an Australian. It's like, bro, that looks good on you. It's like, stop pissing in my pocket. Stop shitting in my hat. This guy's shitting in my hat over here, dude. Don't throw up in my shoes. Come on, man. That's hilarious. You know, one of the worst sets I ever had was in Australia.
I was very early into stand-up. I think I was like 2 years in.
Shit. It would have been harsh.
Yeah. When you're like, 1, 2, 3 years into stand-up, you think you're hot shit. You really do.
Yeah.
You think you know it all. You think you can headline anywhere. You think you're good. You're like in this weird zone of being like fresh and confident, but the material isn't quite there yet. But like you're comfortable on stage. So I was in that zone, and it was my family trip. Me and my mom and my sister went to Australia. We did Brisbane and we did Sydney. And in Brisbane, I did a show at a hotel, which was kind of like a hostel. So it was an international crowd, a lot of expats and Americans there. So I did really well. And then in Sydney, I was at a spot called the Comedy Store. Do you still have that place out there?
Not sure.
It's different from the Comedy Store in LA. But I hit them up and I said, hey, I'm an American from Los Angeles. I do stand-up. And like, that's enough to get a spot.
Yeah, I'm a big shot.
Yeah. And so they give me a spot. They put my name on the marquee with like the 2 or 3 other people that were on the show. And they gave me a 5-minute spot. And dude, I had this joke. It was a banger. In America, it was a banger. It was about Craigslist.
Yeah, I don't know much about Craigslist.
Exactly. You see that? Hilarious. I wanted to see if you knew. So Craigslist in America is just like a forum online where you could buy and sell shit. They got different categories,
eBay.
like whatever. It's kind of like eBay.
Gumtree. Have you got Gumtree?
No, but I heard of that after this horrible
when someone heckled saying, Gumtree, you dickhead.
Yeah, probably. That's kind of what happened. So, Craigslist is like eBay, but a little more easy and like casual. And so I had this whole bit about Craigslist, and I did the bit. It was like the first thing I did when I got on stage, because I was like, yeah, this is my opener. This is a hilarious thing. Dude, silence, absolute silence. And someone was like, oh, we don't know what that is, mate. It's like, okay, well, I'll just keep going with the rest of my shit. And so I kept going, and once you lose them, and I was early, I was still new, so I like didn't know how to get them back on my side yet. Yeah. So I just did the rest of my set. It was terrible. The next day I came back. I didn't do that. I just blasted Kanye West for like 10 minutes, and that went great.
What do you mean you blasted Kanye West?
I made fun of Kanye West. Okay, this was like 2017. Yeah. So it was current Kanye West.
You were ahead of culture.
I was ahead of the culture, exactly. Yeah, so I was calling him nuts before he's doing all the crazy stuff now. But I just always remember that, and that taught me like a huge lesson, because then I went and I performed in London, and I did a show in Thailand, and I never did Craigslist again.
Yeah. I mean, that happened for us even just coming into the US, with our way of thinking, especially in Australia, it's very bit conservative with how we can speak about the product and market the product and just talk in general, and in terms of selling as well. Yeah. Americans like to be sold to.
Yeah.
Australians, if they can smell that you're trying to sell them something, they're like, fuck off, mate.
Really?
Yeah. You got to be very subtle.
What is that? Where do you think that comes from?
It's probably linked a little bit to tall poppy syndrome, but just, in terms of like, if you're familiar with tall poppy syndrome? Okay, so this is a thing in Australia. I think it's a thing in the UK as well, where essentially people don't like it if you achieve things. If your friends don't like it if you become something. Okay. Whereas here it's like, if you have a dream and you want to go and chase your dream, it's embraced and it's encouraged, I think. Yeah. Australia is not so much like that. It's like, just chill out, mate. Just calm down, mate. Like, I want to go build this. I want to go do this. It's like, chill out. Yeah, easy. What are you stressing about that for? So going back to that, I think that's linked a little bit to that culture around in Australia. They don't like to be sold to so much. And in the US, it's a bit more, sales culture.
Wow. And what is the phrasing for that? Tall poppy?
Tall poppy syndrome.
Tall poppy.
Tall poppy. Like, don't be the tall poppy out of...
stay okay. Don't be the tall poppy out of the group of flowers. Stay down with us.
This is where we're living.
That is such an interesting cultural
It's a cultural handbrake.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
And it exists for sure in the UK and
it doesn't the way you're describing it does not make it sound like it has any malice behind it. Like the people saying, "Hey, relax, chill out." That's not. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's not a deep malice place.
They're not like trying to keep you down. Right. It's just more of a maybe a cultural equilibrium.
Just chill out. Not to say we're not competitive. We're ultra competitive in sport. Yeah. And we want to see our athletes win. Right. But just, I guess, in lifestyle day to day. It's like, it's
more of a.
If you're going hard, don't look like you're going hard.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't be on that hustle. If you're on that hustle, it's like, whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that cause any did you get any feedback when you were developing this product based on that?
Not really, no. And I was in Byron. We were in Byron, like, which is the ultra. The sign as you drive into Byron says, slow down and chill out.
Oh, that's cool.
what the sign says
Okay,
as
cool.
you're driving into the town.
Hippie spot.
That's the hippie spot.
That's where I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's evolved now into hippie meets, multi-millionaire.
Right, so that's the Tulum vibe that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the gentrification,
right?
Which happens everywhere. But no, it's a bit like that there for sure. Like everyone's just surfing, chilling. Why you need to build a business? Just chill.
Wow, that's so wildly different, dude. Yeah, in America, it's like you don't have a brand. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, you haven't raised $300 million this month. Nah, you can't hang out here.
You don't have entrepreneur in your bio, whatever.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You don't have a Forbes article? Everybody has a Forbes article now. I know people with a Forbes article.
Yeah, I know the guy you got to pay. So let me hook you up.
Yeah.
Like
$200, you get a Forbes article about whatever.
You got to have Forbes on your website.
You have Forbes in Australia. They're like, no, you fucking loser. You're not allowed on this beach.
That's Australian culture a little bit. Yeah, chill out. Because it's a lot of beaches, a lot of space. Yeah, even we've noticed it, just Jed and I being here, just like, it's a competitive culture, which we love, But,
It gets toxically competitive here sometimes, too. I think that, obviously it has its advantages in terms of the businesses that have come from that and the entrepreneurs that are leading the charge in different lanes in America. But it's also created this mad cultural conflict and this just like bubbling turmoil in the country because it's created I think it's created a lot of tribalism that's outside of what a typical tribalism based society would be, because we're tribal by nature. We have our different communities that we come from, our different sports teams that we love, like that's all very tribal. But the sense of competition now, I think, has reached a point where it's easy to find ways to be against somebody. Like it's easy to. You can find all these different ways. You can fight. This person's a vegan. I fucking hate him. No, idiot. Like right away branded as an idiot. Or like that person voted for this guy. Not going to talk to them. Or this person, whatever, lives in this area. Well, that whole area is trash, so I'm not going to talk to them. And that, I think, in America, it's just made people angrier. It's made people fight against each other more. That's why, I don't know if you noticed that in Australia, you look at American news and you just think, why are all these people so angry all the time? And I think
that's the question. What do I think when I see American news? Like, that's the whole thing. But yeah, there's a lot of division created. Yeah, a lot of these subsection groups created in terms of like, we're against these guys and these guys, but I'm a vegan, but I'm a raw vegan. Like
right, exactly.
Like, who cares? Chill out. Would be the Australian culture,
right?
That's sort of. I think we are welcoming and open to most. The tribalism does exist for sure in pockets, but if we're talking about this, going away and doing ceremonies and doing this weekend work, then that should dissolve it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So otherwise you get caught in maybe it becomes a bit pseudo spiritual where you're doing all this work, but then you still at the highest place. The highest frequency is love, empathy, understanding, gratitude. You're not really in those spaces. You're not resonating with that frequency if you're in that tribal mindset. That's a negative tribal mindset.
Totally. What do you think when you watch American TV?
I don't watch TV. I haven't had
American
TV for
news.
like 10 years, but
Smart.
I do like Tucker Carlson's legend. You have a lot of legends out there doing good stuff, and there's a lot of propaganda out there, so it's normal scenarios. But yeah, I resonate with the US a lot because of that patriot mentality, that freedom of speech, that land of the free, home of the brave type thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot to be proud for in that. So that's the true essence. And then around that is all sorts of propaganda, nonsense, distractions.
Yeah.
That is just laughable and it's like putting bad food in your mouth by consuming that. If you're consuming that, you might as well just, if you're consuming that, you're also just probably consuming a diet that's probably not good for you either. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, and then you're questioning everybody else that's meditating.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that? You're sitting in the corner of the room for 20 minutes? That's dumb. Let me get another Twinkie, please.
Where do you think news will go in the future?
The direction it's going now, I really like. People are watching CNN and Fox and everything less and less and less. You got people like Tucker Carlson who are leaving, whether it's by choice or by force, doesn't matter. Just the fact that he's separated from a mainstream news conglomerate.
Which was forced, not his choice.
Not his choice, right.
You know,
but like, I see it as a good thing.
It's a good
because
thing,
now
for sure.
he's, whatever restrictions he might have had, he's going to have even less. And he was talking about some pretty wild stuff over the past couple of years that needed to be talked about. He was one of the only people that had UFO segments, you know, and like took that stuff.
That's a whole realm.
Seriously.
I just don't have the bandwidth to go into that one.
Oh,
There's like
dude,
there's so much going on. I'm like,
the bandwidth,
UFOs
bro.
as well. I'm like, I'm just gonna park that one. Like,
oh man, that's my shit. I
your
make bandwidth for that. Yeah, I really, really do.
what do you think's going on there
with UFOs?
What's your hypothesis?
Okay, I got a couple. So, do you know like some of the main stories that have happened, like the David Fravor flight? Do you know that one? Or Bob Lazar? Do any of these names ring a bell? Okay, so there have been captured video by the U.S. military of supposed crafts moving at ridiculous rates of speed and then stopping on a pin, or moving at ridiculous speeds and turning at ridiculous speeds, which is physically impossible for a human to operate. So we know that there are not humans in there unless there's a technology that we have no idea how to create, allowing the humans to operate the machine without being flattened into paste, right? So we don't know what that shit is. But the fact that they exist and that they've been captured on film means one of two things. Either humans are making them or humans aren't making them. And the U.S. leads the entire world in technology. Some of these things were captured on film in the early 2000s. So now it's been like upwards of 20 years. I don't have faith in the government to keep a secret for 20 years. There's no way. Watergate wasn't kept secret for 20 years, right?
I don't know what that is.
Gulf of, what's that?
I don't know what Watergate is.
So Watergate was where President Richard Nixon was caught on tape saying a bunch of bad shit, and then it came out to the public. The Gulf of Tonkin was another event in the U.S. where the U.S. military...
the Vietnam War?
Yeah, so they used this Gulf of Tonkin, I don't know if it's Tompkins, whatever. They said an attack happened on a U.S. vessel, and that was why they needed to go to war. That attack never happened, and we know that now. And it's just like a known thing. Like the government completely fabricated that shit. So like I because of those things and others, I don't trust the U.S. government to be able to keep a secret for decades. So if those crafts that were filmed in the early 2000s and the late 90s were created by like another species and there's actual proof of that, I think it would have came out by now, which leads me to lean more toward it's a government secret technology created by humans that they haven't told us about yet. And that's the secret. Then because it's not as big of a secret as there are aliens. At the same time, though, I get driven fucking crazy because there's all these other sightings out there that are completely inexplicable. There's the thing that happened in Brazil like 20 years ago where they actually saw a creature and apparently it was captured and taken to a lab. There's what happened in Arizona, this big craft that was moving slowly over the entire Phoenix city that's bigger than anything humanity has ever made spacecraft-wise. And it was just moving real slow. People got photos, people got video, but people disregard it and ignore it because you don't want to get called crazy for believing in aliens. So there's still this stigma around it. So it's like I always talk about these two viewpoints because they're in such conflict, and I don't know which way to land. So I default to they're out there, but we need like a piece of metal or like a body part or something like that. Just getting it on camera is not going to be enough to persuade everybody to finally believe.
Not on camera because CGI and everything.
Yeah, it's just not enough.
Today,
we need them to show up in the middle of the street and say what's up, and give us their alien mushrooms. Like that's what we need. We need some physical proof in order for everybody to finally be like, wow, look at how fucking stupid we've been. We're all just human. And we're actually on the same team, because that's really what would happen at the end of the day. But I think we just need that one really obvious piece of evidence, So we'll see until that happens.
We'll just
keep, taking mushrooms and taking other things to try and say hi to them. But it is crazy, man. It's the stuff they've captured. You've seen some of the stuff, the Bob Lazar and all that stuff. It's like, because the craziest thing to me, as you can tell, I'm a little into this.
Got him on aliens. He's just like lean back.
Bro, I'm in it now, dude. Mushrooms are great, but aliens?
Yeah, shit. All right,
it's like a lot of the stuff that they've captured and that they've talked about has been very similar for multiple people. And these aren't just citizens. Like citizens, typical folks are somewhat easy to dismiss, unfortunately, because you don't know their background, you don't know their credibility. But then when you get into high-ranking government officials, they become a little bit harder to disregard, right? And so when you have high-ranking government officials or active military personnel, like in the Air Force or the National Guard or whatever, who have seen these things move and operate, and they've seen them in different years in different parts of America, and they've never talked to each other before, then a pattern starts to emerge that's really hard to ignore. Because if this guy off the coast of Florida saw something in 2019, and this guy off the coast of San Diego saw the exact same thing in 2004, and they're just telling their story and they've never met or anything, then it's like, all right, what the fuck? What's happening? What is this thing that's moving in a way that human-made crafts just physically can't move? So, all that to say, I don't fucking know. But I hope it's aliens.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah.
With all these things happening. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be fun to throw aliens into the mix.
It'd be great, dude. They could teach us some shit. I mean, I always think, like, if we're taking mushrooms, what are they taking? What did they take to get them to where they're at? If they're traveling through wormholes, I mean, what kind of biohacking tips are they going to give us?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Go take a galaxy shower every morning when you wake up or whatever. Yeah, man. So it's an exciting time in that regard, but I'm even more excited by like the practicality of all of these new health practices that people have, just the ease of access that people have to products like yours, or all these health benefits that people work into their morning routine or whatever. It's giving me a lot of hope, a lot of optimism.
It's foundational.
Yeah,
for humanity's next step. Maslow's hierarchy of needs type thing.
Yep.
Food, water, security down the bottom. We can, there's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs of health and biohacking, really, and all those three things we spoke about, which people didn't do or know or think about previously, and we've got deterred or distracted by widgets and gadgets, and they still play a place, but they're much higher on the hierarchy. They're not the prerequisites, not foundational.
Yeah. What's your outlook for what y'all are doing with Life Cykel over the next couple of years?
It's very exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting. There's we're in the US at the moment, finally, after a couple of years, but we've got our site here, so it's good to see the team. I haven't seen them for 3 years.
Cool.
In Green Bay, so go out, check those guys out. Bunch of athletes we're working with now, bringing a lot of sort of professional athletes have been reaching out, really, using the product. So I guess back to my background of high performance in sport, I think we'll be going down that path in a much deeper way, just because there's natural synergy and alignment there, and the guys, track everything, they feel everything, so they're very intuitive with their bodies. And so that's exciting. New products, can't give too much away there. New markets, some stuff in India is exciting. There's a lot of wisdom in India as well with Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurveda. So yeah, very excited. Maybe don't sound like it right now, a bit jet lagged. No, I feel 3 hours sleep, but I can't give too much away. But yeah, the mushroom movement is in full swing, and it's going to be a wild ride, and stay grounded with the mushrooms.
Love that, bro. I love it, man. As we get out of here, let me ask you this. We'll close on this. What are 3 practices that you have learned and integrated regularly into your life that you've seen the most benefit from? If you could name like a top 3.
Yeah. It's hard to squeeze into 3. Yeah,
I know, it's tough.
That have just pushed me forward on a trajectory. Okay.
Yeah.
Just 3 makes it tricky.
I know 3 is tricky.
And we've spoken about a lot already, so I'll go with some different ones. But I think just really like, your thoughts, your thoughts and your feelings. So there's one, your thoughts and your feelings, really learning to control them. You're not in a masculine, I need to control everything, but watching what slides into your thought patterns and what slides into your feelings. And maybe that feeling may be as simple as like, especially for the masculine, I don't want to go and work out. I don't want to go and do an ice bath. Being able to separate yourself from your feelings so you can do what you know is right, so you stay disciplined. Because every morning I'm getting in an ice bath. I don't feel like it most mornings, but you do it, and that's helped me enormously. So that one was around thoughts and feelings, and learning to be able to not be a slave to your thoughts and feelings, but being able to control them in a positive way. Secondly, meditation for me now is, I never was a big meditator. It's taken me many, many years to go from a 5-minute meditation, 10-minute meditation now to be able to sit in meditation for 45 minutes, and it's the most blissful thing. And it's also very visionary for me. It's where I get a lot of downloads. Yes, I do that most mornings. Some mornings it might be 10 minutes, some mornings it might be 40 minutes, just depends. I usually do it with a tea ceremony as well, so I have some tea and just complete peace and silence. And I usually do that, on the earth. So nice. Grounding would be the third one. Magnetism, just that morning stack of grounding and morning sunlight. Out of everything you can do, I just feel amazing from doing that. And I've had my live bloods done regularly, and after probably doing that consistently, that morning routine of meditation, ice bathing, sunrise, and grounding, my live bloods, looking at my bloods on a microscope, are looking very healthy.
Nice.
I think that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, your blood cells probably look like little mushroom spores under a microscope.
Exactly, just little mycelial networks connected, just weird cordyceps popping out of my red blood cells.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Last of Us?
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I wanted more mushroom zombies, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, it was beautiful show, great story, awesome writing, but I'm a big zombie guy, so I felt a little left wanting, Yeah. I just wanted more, but the mushroom stuff, the actual like science of it was really cool.
The only reason I ask is because our comments were filling up with, no way I'm buying cordyceps. The last of us, it's like misinformation. Shit.
I know, damn.
But yeah, funny. They're my 3, things.
Yeah.
Do they resonate with you? Did you?
Yeah. So, my morning routine, I cold shower right when I wake up. One day when I get that adult house money, I'll get an ice bath.
Just get a chest freezer as well.
Yeah.
This is the other idea around like gadgets and widgets and things, and like needing to buy a 10 grand ice bath or cold plungers. Like, you can just get a chest freezer.
There's also that inflatable one that you can just
get those too, but then you got to buy ice every time. You got to buy 10 bags of ice. So economically it's not good either. And it doesn't get as cold, but just a chest freezer can do the job.
That would do it. So I do that. I stretch for 10 minutes in the morning. I do morning yoga for 10 minutes. And then I have my mantras and a little visualization session before I even look at my phone. So all of that happens before I look at my phone. And I really try to look inward, look outward at the sun for 20 to 30 minutes prior to looking at whatever the rest of the world is saying to me. So
minimizing tech time is an enormous biohacking tool that we need to have, just getting away from our phones. Getting away from tech.
Getting away from tech and getting into mushrooms, dude.
Mushrooms
and that's
nature.
what we're doing. I appreciate you, brother. You have fun?
That was good.
You feel good?
Thank you, brother.
Hell yeah. Okay, cool. Link will be in the description on everything for Life Cykel products. And thank y'all so much for vibing. We'll see you next time.
Thank you guys so much for rocking on this episode. I had a blast talking to Julian. You can learn more about him and his company at lifecykel.com. Make sure you check out Legit Gold, She Legit. Use promo code Brent for 15% off. And cruise over to hemplucid.com to help your body de-stress and help you relax, ease into sleep with all their amazing products. Use promo code Pella at hemplucid.com for a discount. And sign up for my newsletter if you want more updates on my tour dates and you want first access to merch drops and big project announcements. You can sign up for that at brentpella.com. Scroll down to the bottom, sign up for the newsletter. I promise you won't get any naked pictures unless you ask nicely. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Peace.